And today we are talking about object permanence. So, you know, raise your hand if you have ever um, lost something that was only, you found it like 2 feet away, but it wasn't where you expected it. Or you forgot about leftovers in the fridge, or a bill on the counter, or a whole hobby that you loved last week, right? So, object permanence is not just for toddlers. So for those of you who don't know what object permanence is traditionally it is a milestone with um, children where they begin to understand that that something still exists even if they don't see it. Okay, it is the brain's ability to know that something exists even if it is not in plain sight. Now, for us, it's more like we just forget they exist. It's not that we don't know they exist. We forget they exist. And this includes things like physical objects like glasses, mail, that thing you just ordered. How many of you have signed up for a class and completely forgot you did? Hmm. Like an online class. It can be tasks like paying bills, following up with an email, and even people. So relationships, texting, I have to admit that's the one I'm the most guilty of, is really forgetting to text people back. Um, all these connections can often fail because of this object permanence that we deal with. So, um, hold on, I'm looking at my notes here. All right, so why does this happen? So, working memory is like a short-term mental sticky note. And people with ADHD have working memory that is not all that reliable. And so we struggle to mentally hold multiple tasks or items in our awareness at any given time. And so we also, though, tend to hyper focus. I know that sounds odd considering that we, have ADHD, but our brain, when we are in hyper focus, it tends to narrow the spotlight of what we're paying attention to whatever is directly in front of us. And so if you were not in that spotlight, like, everything else just goes dark. All right. So, um, what can this look like, right? It can be forgetting appointments, right? I say this all the time. If the appointment is not in my calendar, it does not exist. So it always has to be in my calendar. Otherwise, forget about it. Lost momentum on projects, right? You're really into something, and then something happens one day and you get out of that groove. And if those things are not in front of you, you're going to completely forget about it. Very often, anyway, not every time, but it happens more often than it doesn't. And also drifting friendships, because you have forgotten this person exists, not because you don't care about them, but if they're not directly in front of you, if they're not in that spotlight, your brain's just not going to go there. So it isn't flakiness. It is just like, it's your neurobiology. So what can you do about it? The first thing is, you want to remember that visibility equals memory. Okay. So anything that you can do to make something visible as a visible cue for you is going to be really helpful. So, for example, you want to keep things in sight, right? Don't put them in drawers or behind closed doors. You want to use clear containers. So, for example, when I talked about, have you ever forgotten about leftovers in the fridge? Most of the time we forget about them because something else has been put in front of them, and we still have it in the container that, like, if we got leftovers from a restaurant, the container is not clear. And so our brain just doesn't register it. So always put your leftovers in clear containers and have them so they're right at eye level when you open the fridge. Don't let things go in front of them. It does make a big difference. But you want to use clear bins. You want to do open shelving if whenever possible, and even sticky notes on walls and things like that. Um, if you have to remember something like, for example, you make lunch the night before, which is great, right? Because you're taking off the mental load in the morning. Was one less thing you have to think about. But then you have to remember, to get it out of the fridge to take it with you. So what some people will do is they'll put a sticky note on the door, and then they will proceed to still leave without it. And that is because our brain just doesn't register it. If you want to remember it, put the sticky note on the handle of the door. Try that. It's much easier. It works much better. Um, you want to externalize the task. Okay, so using whiteboards, again, Post-it notes can be really helpful, but you have to put them where you're going to see them, and you have to change things up a bit. So I don't know about a lot of you, but sometimes if something is in the same place for any amount of time, my brain just suddenly doesn't see it anymore, right? So it can be right in front of me, but I don't see it. So sometimes you have to change up like the colors that you use. For example, if you use a whiteboard and you're always using, say, a black marker, maybe one day you start using blue. It'll just get your attention better. Okay. Um, phone alarms and digital reminders are great. I know for some of you, you're like, those just don't work for me. Part of why I have found that they stop working is because, again, our brain tends to start tuning things out. So if you have reminders going off all the time, your brain's eventually just not going to hear it anymore. So that's when you want to change it up, and you want to change up. Maybe you, instead of having it as a reminder on your phone, it's a calendar appointment, or maybe you change the notification sound that comes with it, right? So it'll get your attention because you're like, wait, what's that noise? Oh, that's my phone. That's my reminder. Okay. Um, routine is it can be really helpful for you to not to forget things if you can if you can create sort of simple anchor routines, right? So, for example, and I think we've talked about this before. Checking your planner while you're making your morning coffee, kind of thing. You're already making the coffee, so just check your planner while you're doing it. Um, uh, looking over notes that you need to review, while you're making dinner, maybe, or right after dinner. Whenever you can repeat this kind of routine, it just starts to make it so that it does strengthen the recall, and it reduces surprises. Uh, I do feel that all things should be written down. Period. The minute you hear yourself say, "Oh, I'll totally remember to do that," or "I'll totally remember to call that person back," it'll be out of your head before you even get to the next thought. Write it down someplace where you're going to see it, and it will give you a reminder. And the last thing I want to talk about is relationships. This is probably one of the places it has impacted me the most. I've lost friendships because the person doesn't live near me. I don't see them regularly, and so they're just not in that spotlight. And it's not that I don't care about them. I love them. I just forget they exist. So, what I recommend for this is start making a master list of people that you want to stay connected to. That's the first part. Then you want to schedule in, whether it's on your calendar, on a planner, with your reminders, a certain amount of people each week that you want to reach out to. And this does not have to be big, like a big, long phone call. I know a lot of us hate the phone, but just simply a text that said, "Hey, I was thinking about you. How you doing?" That's all you have to do. It lets them know you're thinking about them, right? And we're all busy. So sometimes that is all we can manage, and that's okay. But it is a way for them to stay more top of mind to you. If you are in a service-based business where it's clientele, okay? If you do not have a system for this, if you do not have a way, if you don't write these things down, you are going to lose contact with people who might be a potential customer one day because you just forgot they existed, so you didn't follow up with them. Ask me how I know this. So, when I was in real estate, that was a terrible thing for me. I would be like, "Okay, yeah, you need to go get a pre-approval from the mortgage lender, so go do that, and then I'll reach out to you in like a week." And in my brain, this was pre-diagnosis, I would say, "Oh, I'll totally remember to call this person back." And I would remember like 6 months later, and by that point, I was so embarrassed, there was no way I was calling them back. So, you need to write it down. Anytime you hear yourself saying, "I'll remember that," write it down. You need something visual, and writing it out for our brains does tend to work better. So And normalize this with the people in your life that you care about. Say, it's not that I don't care, I just need reminders to show it sometimes. Okay? I know that sounds weird, but this is a very real thing, and it really can impact your relationships in not great ways. Um, so anyway, so that is that. So, object permanence doesn't mean that you're irresponsible or inconsiderate. It just means that your brain needs support to keep things in mind, right? And especially the things that are just not right in front of you. So, um, let me know in the comments. What is one thing that you have forgotten this week, not because you didn't care, but because you forgot about it, um, because you didn't see it? And then also let me know, what is one visibility hack that you have used that has been effective for you? Okay, I've already told you a few of mine, right? I'm curious as to what you have done in the past that has helped you with this. All right, so that's it for this week's Topic Tuesday. I am so happy that you are here. Hi, American Mom. I love that you're here. And if you have any suggestions for topics, please feel free to put those in the comments as well. And I will be here next Tuesday. And I believe it is next Wednesday. This is a weird month. I think this is like a weird 5-week month. I will double check, but I believe our Q&A is next Wednesday. That is for paid subscribers. So, if that is something that you want to be a part of, definitely consider signing up as a paid subscriber. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday for the next edition of Topic Tuesday. Have a great week.